Okay, let's welcome to chapter 5, and we're going to go over this. I'm going to try to be as brief, more brief than I've been in these things. Sorry didn't get this sooner, but I did want to read through everything and make sure I could kind of speed this process up for you. So you got the pages that you want to skim, and just what I mean by skim, I would like you to go through you'll go through like the bold, know the bold words. Those could be on the pretest. The italicized words might be on the post-test, but they will be on a slide. And then you've got and then I want you to just read over like the introductory sentence, and maybe that second sentence is usually can be pretty important if you see something there. But again, I do want you to just skim, be familiar, that type thing. And then when I'm talking about the reading, like the few pages you have to read, because between getting 40 questions on those, well, minus the ones that that will be covered in the skim part, and then stuff that'll be on the slides. But majority of them are going to come from those pages. So you really want to pay attention to the terms I mentioned here, and just really know that information. And then also too with the skimming, the charts you see, I'll kind of tell you the things that are pretty important, but definitely want to do a little bit more than skimming over those, and then also knowing so that you're familiar for the quiz if we go over that in class. So starting on page 276, again talking about bilingual. Again, just remember that multilingual is more than 2 languages. So bilingual's 2, then multilingual's more than 3. And then another thing, as far as a word I thought was pretty neat, is mixed speech that lasts until the child's about 2 years old. That's where they're able to kind of hear different sounds, and they can really pick up on. It's amazing, they can kind of pick up on any language at that point. But after that, it kind of gets to where they're locked on that one language or 2 or 3, whatever they've heard before. And then as we go through here, I'm turning the page to 278, and it talks about language and communication disorders. Again, just skimming through that. As far as the factors, there's that table, 5.2, talks about central, peripheral, and mixed factors. And then also, too, probably we'll go over class, but they're not bolded, but they are in italics. But at the bottom of page 279, look in the linguistic non-fluency, revision, delays before responding, and then I'm turning the page to 280, non-specific vocabulary, inappropriate responses, poor topic maintenance, need for repetition. And then also too, I've got kind of starred and I got it highlighted like crazy. I think 280s are really good. On the focus on development, top of 280 is really good as well. And then I'm going to the bottom of page 281, where just talking about the different varieties as far as South English. This is kind of Black English. Again, as far as like writing legal documents, and actually they call that legalese is the word for that. So then, and then also too, it talks about the basic principles, and then you turn the page, and then this is kind of a weird one. How do you do this one? It's bold and it's italicized, but I'll probably lay off of those, as far as there won't be a pre-test question on that. So, and then so I want you to skim 282 and then to 283. In the middle of 283, I believe you can stop skimming there. Again, of course, I mean, if you look at the stuff that is missing here that you're skipping, which is to kind of keep your reading towards manageable. And again, I hope you're working on your papers and everything. So, again, we're skipping like literacy development. I mean, sounds and the alphabet and spelling and conventions of print, stories. Again, just a big fan of you all keeping this book to where you can at least go back and look at it. So then we go all the way to So then we're kind of going around it, and now we're at 296. So 296 to 297. It's kind of a weird, hard to follow thing here, but it's a graph, table, whatever you want to call it. But you'll notice how it says like grade 1, grade 2, then it goes over to grade 3. Now that first thing, as far as like what can children do, again, like grade 1 says read and retell familiar stories. 2, they can read with greater fluency. 3, they can read in fluency and maybe even enjoy reading. So, and you'll see where, again, if it's like 3 things down, like for instance, on grade 1, looking at that top left, it says use reading and writing for various purposes on their own initiative. And then I go down to the third one down on grade 2. So they're using word identification strategies with greater faculty to unlock unknown words. And then grade 3, it's using word identification strategies appropriately and automatically when encountering the unknown. So you can kind of see where, and then like say I ask them about teachers, you can kind of see where that they kind of line up, if that makes sense. So like what teachers can do, the first word support, then a grade 2 it's create, grade 3 it's continues, and those are all interrelated. Same thing with what parents and family members can do. I think that's a great chart right there. So we are so you can actually kind of skip page 280, 298. Now 299 is I want you to read this. It's components of the reading process and things like decoding text, like what decoding is, as far as being contact language, phonic knowledge, and sight word knowledge. They're all used by readers when they're decoding. And then, of course, then you got like contact. Then it gets into like what is contact knowledge, phonic knowledge, sight word knowledge. And then I thought the bottom was a good sentence about if a reader knows by sight 200 to 400 words, then what percentage can that person figure out? So then I'm going to page. I'm getting better at this. So page 300. And then, of course, you see comprehension. Again, kind of like a thing where it's like, yeah, you would recognize comprehension, but I want you to get to the point where if somebody says comprehension, you can come up with, you'll be able to recall it, to know exactly what that is rather than being able to recognize it, some of the words. So that would be one of them. And then figuring out what a fluent reader is. It's kind of like we talk, there's these words, but we really want to know what those are. So, and then here it talks about three important skills. So 300, becoming a fluent reader. The first sentence is the 3 important skills. Might be asking you about the 3 skills. And then right there it says to stop. So then we kind of go to page 303. Now again, the reason I didn't add, you've got skill-based approach and holistic approach. I thought the balanced approach could kind of handle both of those. You can kind of get enough of it to understand both. But, again, because it's comparing this, adding, holistic, or, sometimes that's called whole language, and then skills-based, like, word attack is one of the things it uses. So, knowing those and then how those work. Then, again, where it says balanced approach, pretty much where it says balanced approach, which is in italics on page 303, all the way down. I've got like the whole thing highlighted, so just be familiar with that. And then page 304, you've got those, it talks about the approaches and what, as far as like high academic engagement, that list there where the bullet points are. And then again, and I thought the thing was important too, as far as keeping young people engaged in reading, how to motivate them. You're sitting at either you're working with the schools as maybe a psychologist, you're working with you're a teacher in a meeting and they're trying to figure out a way to keep the kids engaged in reading, or you're a parent and you're on a PTA or some type of panel where you're working on this too. And well, hey, here's some things that you can, some ideas that have worked as far as to motivate the kids, and you'll have some information here. I think this is an important section. And I like the way it says early grades, they're learning to read, right? And then they're trying to read to learn. And I think that's, again, maybe I'll talk about it in class, but I've got a friend named Chris, and he said that he grew up reading, right? And he literally, he went to South Carolina, didn't have a problem in school, didn't really have to study much. He went to that international business school, which is ranked actually like #1 in the country for its program. Moved to Germany. Again, no problems whatsoever, just hardly studied, got by. And I was kind of, and then he just said that when he was growing up, he just read and read and read and read and read. And he just says, yeah, he said, you give me a book and, I'll read it and I can just figure it out. It's a great skill to have. And I just was honest with him. Like, you've got to show me. I'm one, I can watch a YouTube video and take apart a car, but if I have to read about it, it just doesn't connect. And I guess I was playing sports and doing all that stuff when I was younger, instead of reading for enjoyment. When going back, I wish I would have done a lot more reading. But and then I thought so now I'm going to page 305 at the bottom. You can skip the using embedded phonics, but it says most surprisingly in 1996 National Assessment of Educational Progress indicated adolescents reported reading fewer than 5 pages per day in school for homework. And I'm wondering, like, gosh, should we have more per day? Like, are you reading? How much do we need to start? Do you need to read 80 pages for this chapter? So, but anyway, I'm after more. I guess for me, I'm after quality reading rather than quantity reading. So I'm hoping that by taking your notes and by really focusing on the questions and things and when you're reading a sentence and how could that relate? Would that be important? Things like that is my goal for you to do in this class. So, and then, talking about reading for motivation type thing, again, as far as like the teachers just modeling effective reading strategies. And I know like right now I'm reading a book about willpower, and it's just fascinating. And like maybe, for instance, if I were to talk about that in class, about the things I'm learning and that type of thing, is I'm, for me, reading that for enjoyment, trying to set like an example. So if you're teaching a class or something, just really, it says to talk about the books you're reading, how interesting they are, and things like that, to where maybe the students will want to read more as well. So then we get to page 307 and we go back to skimming. However, I do have this highlighted and starred and everything. It says that figure 5.7, recommended services for adolescents experiencing difficulties with reading. Again, there's 5 things here, and again, you want to be able to know this stuff as far as like you're having a conversation. Hey, aren't you taking classes at Francis Marion? What do you think about if you learn anything about adolescents having trouble with reading, what do you think about this? And then I think knowing this would be good. Again, you're skimming. Obviously, learning to write is very important, but trying to keep it. Again, giving you some time to work on your papers. 309, that invented spelling. That's a bold word. And then I think focus on development at the top of page 309 is pretty important as far as the different spelling, transitional spelling, conventional spelling, that type thing. And then, again, turning the page to 310, 311, writing as composing. So it might be good to maybe go through that, and any of that might help with the book. Again, I like on page 311, it says that young writers, they don't have any difficulties talking about like what to write, but just putting the pen to paper is something that there's a challenge. And again, if things like if they would keep a journal or just get used to writing every day, no matter what it is, just writing how bad their day was or how much they hate. A lot of times it's sometimes in like where I was working last year at Chrysalis, some of the ladies, they did not want to write at all, and I say, well, hey, I've got a great thing. Why don't you just write about why you shouldn't have to write? And that it kind of gave them something at least, to kind of get their, get things going. And then again, putting pen to paper. And once they started to get used to that, then they were fine with it. And actually, some of them really enjoyed writing and said they would continue journaling after getting out. So then again, we're going all the way to page 316. So page 316 talks about writing across the curriculum as far as, whether it's math, music, whatever it is, just getting people to write type thing. Because again, people, it's really writing is so important. I can't tell you, as far as, I guess what separates the super successful from the successful, a lot of it, some of it is just, if your parents own the business and you're, come in to take the business, that always helps. I knew a lot of people that were super successful that way, but as far as people just making it without that background, they're just getting their way up through the company. And really what separates it, it's just 90% would say writing skills. One person, he was over, a huge consulting firm in Atlanta. 100 employees making, but he was actually an English major. And then from that point, that really helped him excel with his writing skills. So that's very important. But we're still skimming, Kevin. We're skimming. So anyway, functionally literate. That would be something neat to know. That's on page 317, functionally literate, bold word. Okay, now we're getting to page 320. And this is where, again, I've got read and know. So we've got dialects there. And then we've got the, accents, the different, that. And then on page 321, there's a sentence that starts with, during the 1960s. Again, talks about culturally deprived and language deficient were often described as children who spoke recognizable dialects such as Black English that differed from SAE. SAE is Standard American English, dialect expected in schools. And again, the book really talks about the importance of recognizing this and using this in your class. But however, to be, modeling more of the standard, even though you're talking and interacting, you would more model the, the standard American English. So then I'm looking at the bottom. Okay, so on page 321, I've just got underlined and highlighted. Above all, children's home dialects should be respected since a person's identity and sense of self are intertwined with his or her language patterns. Again, if you're teaching and being hard on somebody's dialect because that's kind of the way they're raised, and they could kind of maybe check out and not want to try as much in school. So then it goes to dialects in a classroom, and then page 323 and 324. 322 and 323. We're turning the page. If it's focus on research, you can skip. But as far as on the bottoms of page 322 and 323, I pretty much know every single word of that. I think that is some really cool stuff. I was even sharing with one of the psychology professors here, and just as far as how the correct way to go about it, correcting children is very important. it makes sense. And after you read it, it makes complete sense too. So then also, so I'm turning to page 324, and again talks about children, culture influences as far as school achievement. Certain cultures put more emphasis on doing well in school than other cultures. So then as far as, so going down page 324, it's changing classroom discourse. The first sentence, second paragraph, talks about the verbal participation is greater when the classroom discourse patterns are similar to those used in home or the community. So making your classroom somewhat similar to the community is something that's important too. And then I thought another thing on the very bottom of page 324 and the top of page 325, talking about how to get, like when you're sending home, like for the child to read, to maybe to send something home that has both. I mean, as far as to help the parent, if the parent's English is limited, well, you can send home something that's already translated for the parent, that so they can kind of read together. It'll make it more comfortable for the parent. Parent's going to read. Parent will enjoy reading because they're able to they want to help their child, but they can. But having the tools of something that's translated will allow them to help and feel good about that. And then also too, reciprocal teaching approaches, again, can be just a really powerful thing. And then I'm kind of going to the bottom of page 325 to bilingual education. So you've got transitional and maintenance, like what the difference of those are. And then I'm turning the page to page 326, and we've got like what's the difference between one-way and two-way bilingual programs, and then what is an English as a second language, what is structured immersion. And then I'm going to page 327, where talking about, do classrooms make a difference? Referring to the first paragraph on page 327, do classrooms make a difference? And then also too, as far as like dialogues and literature logs, some words that are italicized there. And again, just knowing that, it's just a great way. It could be a great question to ask in a job interview or something, as far as if they use those and have had success. So then now again, 328, I'll let you skip, but I think that's a pretty important page there. And then 329, we've got the chapter summary. Now a lot of the chapter summary was covered in the reading that we had, and then there's just some major. And then just almost like half of it. So really just 329 would be some things that would be, there will be a question on that. And again, just looking for the things that are greatest effect. Could be some things that where it's really where it's very I can't speak right now, where it's very definite, like this is the best way, or this way is better than that way, something that's more definite type things. The stuff that's just kind of, this is for this is for that, I probably won't ask, but just so know that, and that should be it. So again, just try to work on your papers. I will try to this weekend. I've got a bunch of stuff to do myself, but I'll get in and try to make. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'll just do a terrible job and just kind of do a mock paper as far as coming up an idea for a topic and just send it out, and then I can go back and revise it type thing, where maybe you can maybe it'll help get a good enough idea. So again, the only problem is I'll be doing it from a Mac, but I think you'll get generally the idea will be the same on your computer, or if you have a Mac, it definitely help. So I guess that's about it. So thank you for your time, and I will see you on Monday.